This used to be a t-shirt, a full-on t-shirt, but unfortunately, this shirt has found its way to a pair of scissors. Coming from my client that I got this from, they said that they were watching somebody's kids and they looked away, and I guess somehow the kids ended up in their closet, pulled out this t-shirt, had a pair of scissors, and decided to chop it up and make it into a puzzle, I guess you would say. So right now we are just assessing everything from the stitching that is currently on the sleeves, trying to get a feel for what we're going to do. This is a 1977 Ed Donohue Grateful Dead t-shirt, and as you can see, it is such a beautiful print, such a beautiful shirt. On the Good Hanes tag, we love that, on a size large. So everything looks good here. That is intact. The only problem that we're really gonna face looking at the current pieces is how chopped up the collar is, and trying to reapply it later on, but we'll deal with that when we come to it. So right now we are going to take everything apart, and the plan going on here is to basically lay everything flat and create two pieces for this restoration. So you can see that if we would try to mend this thing in the tubular fashion that it came in without having the side seams, it would be very difficult, especially for the methods that I'm going to be using to reconstruct this t-shirt. So you can see, slowly but surely, we go ahead, and then this was just for documenting anything that I needed right here for how the stitching's put together, and basically looking at how the binding right here that I'm looking at is attached. You can see also that the binding, the stitch that's holding the binding is also I believe cotton, since it's dyed in the same fashion. So usually if this were like a polyester thread, it would remain white, but you can see that it is stayed it stayed the color with basically matches the color of the dyed garment. So I thought that was pretty cool that the construction of it was 100% cotton for the binding. All right, so going into this now, we can see we have a couple holes that weren't from the cuts. We have this sleeve right here that we're gonna take apart, and you can see from the right, if you look towards the right, it is chopped up and missing some parts. So we're gonna take apart this sleeve to completely reconstruct it. And right here you can see I am marking that is an L, and an L right here for the arm sleeve. And the point of that is basically to keep track of where the parts go, what connects to what. Makes it a lot easier when it comes time to mending the pieces together and making sure everything's in the right place. So again, we're taking everything apart, and the goal right now is to make this into two pieces that we can reconstruct and keep the proper proportions. So right here, we're just marking it down as this is the right back, and I believe I put RF somewhere. It's the right back, and here the left front. So we're gonna go ahead, take this apart, and so like I said, the reason we're taking this apart is to make our two panels to put together. So this is a lot of deconstruction. So that's our right sleeve. Alrighty, now we are here at where we need to make this into two. I know some people might not like this. Some people will try to say that, oh, should keep it tubular, but I mean, if you look at the t-shirt, it is already chopped up beyond belief. And to keep it tubular, I feel like to mend these pieces together would make the challenge 1,000 times harder. And honestly, if this t-shirt needs work later on, putting the side seams is going to make it a lot easier to repair, and a lot easier to alter if there needs to be any alterations. Like if let's say this t-shirt would go into the possession of somebody else and they wanted to make it bigger, you have the side seams there to add extra material if you wanted to, or if you wanted to take it in, you could. And here's the piece that was challenging, making me scratch my head the most, was you see, like, it kind of looks like rats got to it at some point, like if the shirt was found and it already had the damage. Like, I don't think the kids cut that up in that way from like the rest of the t-shirt. So right now what we're doing is pressing the pieces that we need to cut and basically forming everything into a regular t-shirt template, I guess you could say. I don't believe I used a template for this t-shirt restoration right here. I believe we kind of just put everything in half and filled in anything that was missing. So right here, this is the part, again, I was talking about maybe the rats got to when this t-shirt was originally found. Maybe somebody had it in the basement for a very long time and, you know, they forgot about it. So pressing, very important that we press everything to make sure we see exactly how much we have to work with as far as material. Because as you can see, there is a lot that is missing. And we just want to make sure everything is centered up. So right here, I'm taking my big ruler. There goes my little sat iron to keep it in place. I love that thing. And here's our chalk. And these scissors, at the time, these scissors needed to be sharpened, and it took me a very, very long time to get cuts that I really, really were basically confident about. I ended up getting them sharpened later. So here we go. All the pieces we can slowly put together. I believe this is the front. So we have the left center. We have basically the top center with the huge skull logo. And the top right. And then our bottom right. And right now we're trying to... The hardest part about this is trying to make sure that all the fabric that is rolling under, we're making sure that is basically coming together. We're unrolling it, unraveling it, and making sure that these pieces are connecting to the best of our ability. And the way we do that is looking at it from the underside. So it usually curls under. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this tape. We're going to use this tape to keep the pieces together from moving. I mean, t-shirt, there is no set in stone rules of how to repair a t-shirt, okay? And I feel like with every repair that I take on, I'd like to try different things to see if they work. So we tried the masking tape. There's a bunch of adhesives you can use, which is completely up to you. And for this one, I can't remember. I guess we're gonna... it's been forever since I've seen this video, since I recorded it, and now we're finally getting to putting this out for you guys. So right here is just basically putting a puzzle together and sticking everything together so that we can get our pieces on right and make sure nothing is unraveled. So there is going to be a lot of ironing, like a lot. Probably an unhealthy amount of ironing. So make sure you got distilled water in your iron, okay? Do not fill your iron up with tap water. That is not good for your health. So yeah, this is some work though, man. I'll tell you what, and like I said earlier, there is no right or wrong way to repair a t-shirt. There is no quote unquote professional way. Like, do whatever works out for you. Like, if it comes out good, it comes out good, and if it doesn't, then redo it and do it again and have fun, man. Have fun. If you're somebody that's watching this and you're just scared or intimidated to repair a t-shirt, especially knowing how expensive t-shirts can get, especially this t-shirt that you're seeing on my table right now. This is a very, very expensive t-shirt. To get stuff like this can be nerve-wracking. I mean, at first it was when I first started out. And you just get used to it, you know? Something that's already chopped up like this and it's basically completely ruined, right? Like, if somebody doesn't have the know-how to put this stuff together, it's ruined. So like, there's no stress. There's no oh, I'm gonna ruin this even more. No. So lining up right here, like I said, you'll see a lot of like positioning everything all together and then ironing it down to make sure it's straight, make sure it's flat. I should be using, like, I should have a fabric underneath this, but I do not. I do not. Thankfully, the no chemicals or anything have came up from ironing the shirt straight onto wood, but I feel like it has helped me a lot with piecing this thing together. From the moisture that comes up underneath it, it keeps it still. It's very malleable, so like I'm able to move it around if something's not right. Try not to stretch as much as you can, because if you stretch and then when you go to sew things together, as soon as it's dry, it's gonna look all warpy and stuff, and you don't want that. So you can see here, I keep adding little pieces of tape to keep everything together, and we get to this part of basically leaving the holes until the very end, because we want to get these panels out to basically see where we are with the t-shirt reconstruction. So here you can see we take tweezers. I believe it takes tweezers, and then I also take seam ripper occasionally, and I basically use the seam ripper to unravel whatever gets stuck. Same thing I do with the tweezers, but not as much. I think in this video I do use the tweezers a lot in the way that I would use the seam ripper. Alright, so let me explain what we're doing here. So this is our donor t-shirt. This is the t-shirt provided by the client to fix the t-shirt, basically to mend the t-shirt together. So we can't just mend the t-shirt with a lineup and that's it. We need to be able to have a fabric or some sort of interfacing underneath it to make sure that the repair that we're doing stays in place. Okay, if anybody is trying to tell you you don't need a donor fabric for things that are like cut, they are listen, I've been doing this for a very long time. I don't want to say that they're lying to you. All I'm saying is, from my experience, I think that you should always have some sort of interfacing whenever you're mending anything, okay? Especially t-shirts. So we use this shirt right here provided by the client to put our pieces together. And so you see how the t-shirt is cut in like different, it's like cut in different angles and stuff like that. So you just want to have basically one big fabric to lay on top of your t-shirt that you're mending. So you want to pay attention to things like the grain of the t-shirt, how it stretches. Like I believe it's more stretchy, like your stretch is up and down, and then sometimes it might be left to right depending on how your t-shirt is proportioned, or like how it's cut on the grain. So you see here, the t-shirt that was provided was not big enough to carry to basically cover the whole spot, so we added some fabric in the places that we needed. And here you can see after we put it through our machine and mended, we color matched as much as we can going through the entire graphic. So we're not just one color all the way through. It is constantly switching to a different thread color depending on what part of the t-shirt we are at. And that is probably the part that takes the most time. If you're wondering what we're using to mend this t-shirt, this is 100% cotton thread, but it is 3-ply. So 3 little strings twisted together to make this cotton thread. You can find this online anywhere it sells thread. Just make sure you're looking for 100% cotton, 3-ply. And the hardest part about using 100% cotton, so cotton is very, very fragile. It's very thin. It is very breakable compared to like using a polyester. But I've switched over from using polyester thread on 100% cotton tees because frankly I feel like I want the threads to fade in time with the t-shirt, and with polyester thread you're just not gonna get that. It's not going to fade. Well, maybe it might fade a little bit, but not in the way that cotton would, right? So for these restorations, for these patchings and stuff, I've switched over to using a cotton thread. And I feel like over time, once the cotton is more like relaxed and stuff and washed, it's going to be more comfortable for the user. It's not going to feel like you have an embroidery like in your shirt. You know what I mean? How annoying that can feel. So we've switched from using polyester to 100% cotton for some time now. I think mainly like when I first started doing this, I was using polyester thread. Like, oh yeah, it's strong. I want to keep it. Strong. Blah blah blah. But I mean, that doesn't. I don't know. I feel like using the 100% cotton is definitely the way to go for t-shirt repairs, especially with something that is this massive of a repair. T-shirt material is a knit, so you know it is. I guess technically you could knit this back together. It would take ages for something like this. It would take ages for something like this to knit it back together. But I'm sure there's people that do that. You can find them online. Usually it is like, I guess, a Japanese practice. I forget what it's called specifically, but there's people that do amazing work out there. So here we decided to switch up methods on how we're going to be mending this together and basically seeing how much space we got. I decided to pull out a roll of aluminum foil, and I think doing this really helped out seeing where my gaps were and being able to take it apart and relay what I did. So we sprayed it on the aluminum foil and in hopes of it being able to peel off easy, right? So if I just sprayed my adhesive on the table and then when I went to take off the shirt, it's just gonna peel right off. Like it's gonna be a mess to try to take it off the table. So we used the aluminum foil, and here we are pressing again. I believe at this part we have had we've put this through the machine and we mended as much as we could, and here we still have not did anything with these mouse holes. And I don't want to try to take it apart and make the hole any bigger than it already is. So right here, I'm just super careful, and I think what I was checking here is to make sure the color match was close or like cool as far as like what part of the tie-dye pattern that we were getting in that little spot. So I think I wanted to choose a different color, so I ended up cutting off my excess. I don't think I show me cutting off every single piece or every little extra piece that we had here, so take it with a grain of salt. By the end, we made sure that it was very wearable. You don't want to have too much material on it, because at the end of the day, it is a t-shirt, and you just don't want so much material under your t-shirt. I do have another method or a practice that I've been using to basically mend these t-shirts together, instead of using like another donor fabric that is the same weight and stuff. So here we are redoing the single stitch, because some of the pieces, like you can see right here, that it's coming apart on the right. It's coming apart, and we want to make sure it is all together flush. And so we're going to redo the single stitch. So what we're doing here is making sure that this is together. So I sprayed on a little bit of adhesive onto the aluminum foil, and you see how it's together. Any excess material we get rid of. And here is some of the donor that we're going to be using right here. And it is so hard to try to mend, well, not mend. So we put the zigzag through, right, and we put that piece on for the hem. But the problem is that when you have a bulky hem, it is very hard to do the single stitch on a bulky hem, and especially when it's uneven. So we try our best to put it down. I thought this was very cool, having this really, really bright yellow show through with a little bit of the pink, for these holes that we needed to have mended. And right here, this is the most important part, is when you're mending like holes that are like there is physical material missing and you can't just line it up anymore. You want to make sure that this is as close as to original as possible, as far as how much is missing. Like you don't want it to be too big. You want to bring it as close as you possibly can. And the way I usually judge that is by looking at the grain. The grain will show you everything that you need. If you're wondering, like, oh, I'm not sure if my pieces are laid down right, look at the grain. It goes up and down. It goes up and down, and you just make sure that you're lined up. Okay, you want to make sure you're lined up. Like, you wouldn't want the grain of your donor, right? The patch that you're putting down. You don't want the stretchy part. Like, let's say the t-shirt the stretch was up and down. You want to make sure that your patch is also stretchy up and down, not left and right, depending on how the grain is. I believe it's usually the t-shirt stretch like left and right, not up and down. So you want it to be like, you want it to be in that way of stretch when you're putting this stuff together. I think learning about grain in any part of like sewing is very important for somebody that's just beginning. Learn about grain, know what to look for. It's really not. It seems intimidating at first, and it is. But once you done so many, it's like, man, wow. What am I even stressing about? So right here, we did not have enough material, so I had to use some extra material I had in the studio, which I did not mind. This was a very expensive repair for my client, so I'm not gonna nickel and dime anybody. Especially, I believe they were waiting a very long time for this repair, and I was happy. I was lucky enough to have a client that was very understanding, and it's like, hey man, take your time. So here we are. We matched the threads as much as we could to the color. Again, it's a tie-dye t-shirt, so it's very, very, very hard to get everything perfect, right? You're not gonna have every color under the rainbow, and you do what you can. It's at the end of the day, it's a t-shirt. It does not have to be absolutely 110% perfect, and I feel like that's what gives it its character at the end of the day. When you're wearing something like this, and you're wearing it out in public, and you're not getting this anywhere else. So to have something like this it's definitely a talking point. You're not wearing a fully mended t-shirt that looks like it's been mended from hell and not talking about it, right? So right now we have everything from the little rat holes mended, and we have the side seams is what we're basically lining up right now. We're making sure everything is lined up correctly so that when we go to put this t-shirt together and we serge it, that there's no problems. It is fitting the way it is supposed to in its original state that it used to be in, right? This is a kitty cat. That is Mr. Scar. Say hello to Mr. Scar. Say hello to me. I want to see hello, Mr. Scar, in the comments if you've made it this far and haven't been, clicking around. So here we are. We laid it down nice and flat. So we did not serge. I wanted to keep the pit to pit the same that it originally was. So the only way to do that and to put it in two pieces was to lay it down and do a top zigzag, and we did like 3 of those to make sure that it stays in place. I would have liked to serge it, but that would have taken a little bit too much for my client's liking, so that's why we did not use a serger for that part, and we just did like a top stitch. All right, so here we are with probably one of the most, like, dare I say, one of the most annoying parts. So you can see that this sleeve was cut, right? And we need, this is the part that was missing from it. So we need to be able to fit this piece back in, but the problem is that it needs to be a little bit stretched. And we tried our best to line up the tie-dye, right? That's another thing that you have to worry about when you're reconstructing a piece like this, is putting the making sure that the tie-dye matches up. And I believe we did a really good job trying to make sure everything fits back to the way it was. So basically right here, I'm looking at the colors, right? Trying to line them up and make sure that they are right where they need to be. Sorry for my big head in the way, but trying to film these restorations, like trying to pay attention to the restoration and film to make sure that you guys can see, is very hard. It's very challenging. And I only have one camera, so there we are. Boom. And this is where we come down to it all. This is all our work. The single stitch is back in, and we have our donor pieces all together, color matched the best to our ability. And man, I could not be happier with the way that this came out. From something that was torn, right? It was basically a rag. It was a rag. From a rag to something that can be worn again, something that can be passed down, something that can, if they don't want to wear it, they can just hang it up, rather than it just being a chopped up rag. And here it is in its full glory, 100% put back together, carefully looked at, stitched, hemmed up from little pieces like this, and color matched again to the best of our ability. And then we have our cool little spots where the tie-dye is different in different colors. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about this whole transformation, man? Like, was it worth it, you think? And then we did get rid of that excess here. I did not record that. Let me know what you guys think. If there's any questions you might have, I can answer them in the comments. Thank you guys so much.